The Pistons would have a hard road to glory in Detroit, but their journey began in a different place during a very different era of pro basketball. The original Pistons were the brainchild of this man, Fred Zollner. He manufactured engine pistons at his plant in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and he started a company team to play in Midwest industrial leagues.
We'd play our ball games, and then it'd be done about 10:30 at night. We'd go home and wash up and go to work at midnight.
Joining the National Basketball League in 1941, the Fort Wayne Zollner Pistons were led by future Hall of Famer Bobby McDermott and won 3 straight titles. By the end of the 40s, Fort Wayne was a member of the newly formed NBA. The Pistons played in a tiny high school gym, notorious as a hostile environment for opponents.
It was the pit. I mean, it was a tough place to play. I always felt like I was part of the gladiators in the old Roman days, and we were in the lines and they would throw things at us.
Throughout the 50s, the Pistons were led by a skinny 6'5" jump shooting machine named George Yardley. He would become the first player in NBA history to score 2,000 points in a single season.
They didn't know at that early stage how to defend the jump shot. So I was able to come into the league at the right time and make a living at it.
It's Philadelphia versus Fort Wayne for the NBA championship.
Twice the Pistons reached the NBA Finals, but lost both times. In 1957, Zollner left small-town Fort Wayne for big city Detroit, but 13 straight losing seasons would follow. In the 60s, 7 coaches, including the youngest in NBA history, Dave DeBusschere, failed to change Detroit's losing ways. It seemed that better days might be ahead when the team chose guard Dave Bing with their top pick in the 1966 draft. He would win Rookie of the Year honors and a scoring title the following season. But while Bing was unstoppable, the Pistons were anything but, reaching the playoffs only once during Dave's first 7 seasons. In 1970, Detroit received help and hope in the form of massive center Bob Lanier, the NBA's top draft choice. The Pistons promptly showed signs of life with their first winning season since moving to Detroit, and Lanier soon established himself as one of the most respected pivot men of his era.
He was a warrior. He was a big man with a great shooting touch, and then he put the fear of God in you.
Detroit's fortunes in the 70s reached their peak in 1974 under the league's first African-American Coach of the Year, Ray Scott. The team won 52 games and extended the Bulls to 7 games in the playoffs. Still, their revolving door continued throughout the decade as 8 coaches came and went, while the team produced just 3 winning seasons.
You were always in a state of confusion and conflict and change. And it was crazy. It was just crazy.
By the end of the 1970s, Fred Zollner had sold the Pistons. Dave Bing had been traded. And in the 1980 season, Detroit hit rock bottom. They won a grand total of 16 games, the fewest in the nearly 40-year history of the franchise.
It was probably the most devastating journey that you could have. It was like a bad dream.
For the Pistons, the promise of the future would arrive in 1981 when they drafted Isaiah Thomas. Raised in the inner city of Chicago, Isaiah was familiar with answering challenges. He led his high school team to the state championship game, then won a national title at Indiana University. So for Isaiah, joining the worst team in the NBA was not a worst-case scenario.
When I got drafted by Detroit, I knew it would be tough. And I welcomed the challenge. I wanted to do it. I wanted to accept the challenge of trying to take a bad team and make it a great team.
At the time, the NBA was dominated by Los Angeles and Boston, but Thomas was determined to start a tradition of his own.
I had always won, and I wanted to win, but we weren't like the Lakers or the Celtics where you were walking right into tradition. Detroit was a different situation, and we had to take it from the bottom all the way to the top.
The burden of transforming the Pistons into winners fell squarely on the shoulders of the 20-year-old Thomas. From the start, it was clear that he had the talent to pull it off.
What a play by Isaiah Thomas! Shot clock at 15 by Isaiah. Still has the dribble right side. Way down to the floor. Comes in the lane. 10-footers on the way. Got it! What a move by Isaiah! He is lighting this place up.
Thomas had an immediate impact on the league, emerging as one of the NBA's best young players. There was little doubt he was headed for stardom, but Isaiah wanted more.
Isaiah had this disease of winning to the point where it affected everything about him. He wanted it so badly. It hurt like you cannot believe when he lost.
I would physically get ill when we lost, and I would get sick, and I just wanted to win more and just stay away from that sick feeling.
Isaiah suffered through 2 losing seasons before the Pistons turned to an unlikely source to help him. Chuck Daly was a former high school coach from Pennsylvania with a half season of NBA head coaching experience, and his record with Cleveland that year was a dismal 9-32.
He's a good man. He's an excellent basketball man. He's a guy that we have put the future of the Pistons on the floor in his hands. And Chuck, if you'll come up here. As Bill Kreifel said, the basketball's in your hands.
Thank you, Jack. When I went there, they had won 35 games and 37 the previous year to that. Scotty Robertson was the previous coach, and I had a 2-year deal with an option. And frankly, I looked at the film and I said, boy, this guy did a great coaching job. I'm not long for this job.
Chuck seemed to be prophetic as Detroit continued to struggle in his first few months.
We lost 19 out of 24, and there was always talk, you know, you're going to get fired tonight, that sort of thing. And Isaiah called me one night, and we met at a McDonald's, very clandestine. And he made kind of a pact and said, you know, I want you to be the coach, and we're going to have this out.
But Chuck and Isaiah both knew they were facing a long road ahead.
You're watching NBA Special.